Well, hello. We are honored today to have a coupled entry of Jordyn and Jason Egan, two RTIP alums. And I thought it'd be interested for one of you to tell the story of how you met. How did this romance begin here in Tucson?
Jason, go ahead. Everybody will expect to be hearing more from you today.
You're the talker in the bunch. Come on. What did we first met? I guess probably at a Wendy Davis's intro to racing class together, our first year there, and got to know each other a little bit at Symposium that first year. One of the things that we had worked on together was Jordyn came in and really knew nothing about racing when she came to the program, so we got to a few classes and things like Doug's class with the racing office and that sort of stuff. And we just ended up studying together, working on conditions and things like that. And, just spent a lot more time together. And all of a sudden we ended up as more than friends and started dating. And here we are some 18 years later.
Yeah. So Jason is the director of racing and racing secretary at Santa Anita Park, and Jordyn is the executive director of the Thoroughbred Owners of California. So you're in class together in ACBS 142. Now, if I remember the layout of Santa Anita, you're probably 2 or 3 doors down from one another in your careers.
Yeah, 3, I think.
3 doors down.
Yeah, I almost went and just stole Jason's office for this because we're in a shared office here at TOC, as you may hear. But it's funny, I interned here at TOC my junior year, and Jason was over visiting. And honestly, when I interviewed for this internship, he walked to the TOC door with me. So, this all goes back a long way and is terribly cheesy and wonderful.
Kind of come full circle.
Yeah. So maybe, Jason, can you talk a little bit about where you interned during your time here at the racetrack program?
So for me, when I came to the racetrack program, I was more interested in the animal management path than the business end. I wanted to train. And so my internship, I interned with Michael Dickinson one summer at his farm, just about the time he was kind of winding down training and getting more into PETA, the footings. But that was my one real internship out there. It was a great time. The only regret maybe Michael was still more interested in training at that point than going to the surface, but it was also a nice introduction to synthetic surfaces. So kind of get it right there from the wizard himself.
Yeah, the wizard is a good word. I spent 6 months with him when we installed Tapeta up at Golden Gate Field. So he's pretty neat guy to be around and has some strong opinions on some things. So it
sure does.
That's for sure. Yeah, but I think everybody agrees that he's a very skilled horseman. So you learn from one of the best.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So I want to talk about the big cap at some point, Jason, and I know Eric has some questions for you as well. But before we jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Women's Summit, which was a production that Jordyn and Stephanie Horonis and Jody Bella Gregory and others undertook this past year. So maybe, Jordyn, you could talk a little bit about how that was created, why you thought it was necessary, and how the event went.
Absolutely. It really started the year before last year. Don't know what year it is now. We had a women's luncheon at Del Mar. TOC did. The owner relations committee was really kind of getting rolling on some new events. So we started that August, and from there we started to get a lot of momentum and kind of thought, this is more than a luncheon. There's some good ideas here and some people that want to be really engaged. So we did a survey, and you get me and Jody and Stephanie together, and it's good. we like to bring ideas to full fruition. So it really got started there, did a survey, got a ton of feedback on this being a good idea, and started planning. So we originally thought, okay, we'll do it next spring. but then it became such a beast that we thought, okay, we gotta bump this out another 6 months and make this the real deal. So ended up having a sold out crowd last September here at Santa Anita. We'll be doing it again here at Santa Anita right before opening weekend of the fall meet like we did last year. And it's going to be bigger and better than ever. So just keep kind of growing and growing. We came to the University of Arizona in December after a follow-up event at Keeneland in November. But the goal with the racetrack visit was to really engage with the students where they're at and bring the messaging to them. So it really just keeps growing and expanding. And we go wherever the audience is. There will also be another mini series event in August at Saratoga. We have to be a little bit careful of how eager we get. We'd be doing this full time, all the time, on top of everything else if we could, but it's an all volunteer committee. So it's great. And for anybody, I'm giving a plug if you want to learn more, womeninracingsummit.com. And then we have social Instagram and Twitter as well. So that's a great way to follow up, or you can email me directly to get engaged.
Why did this come up as a need? Was
it? We really just found the power of connecting and empowering women when we all get together, and it's always fun. We have no problem connecting socially, but also just the collaborating on ideas. And we all have a lot of supportive men in our lives too. So this is by no means an all women's thing. But just trying to get the female perspective. When you're with like-minded people, you're empowered. Something that's really become a part of this is the handicapping side of things. Something that I've never done, not when I was in school, not when I was anything, and kind of just through gathering with women and getting a little bit of confidence. I now have my own First Bet app and have my running total. And when we have the kids out here at the track or wherever, it's fun to get engaged in that. So it's just really building comfort around areas that you may not be comfortable in, but also getting the female voice, out. And we just connect in a very different way than men. So I think it's important to have a well-balanced perspective on all levels.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody at the racing investigators are having a conference here in Tucson, and she was one of the first female stewards, and it was, you would think that would have happened in the 70s or the 80s, or it's really it's actually tough to hear that it took so long for women to have that seat at the table. So what you could continue to do is appreciated, I think, by everybody, and connections, and what you did for our students was especially important. They came to me after and said, wow, this is empowering, and I feel like I can do anything now. So thank you for coming and joining our symposium.
Of course, it was great. Obviously, it was double meaningful for me being an alumni as well. So we'll look to try to do it every year. It's a great message, a great connector, great mentoring and everything. So it was our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, let's switch over to racing. It's a big week of racing at Santa Anita. Always an exciting time of year with 3-year-olds that you're trying to figure out how good they actually are. The Mandela 3-year-old could be potentially very, very special. One impressively beat a horse who came back, and one impressively. So you just never know, how these 3-year-olds are going to do as distances get longer. Maybe, Jason, you want to talk a little bit about the card and what you expect for Saturday?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with the card. Obviously, things out here with the weather have created some adverse conditions for our horsemen as far as training into the race. I mean, we've had, almost 7 days of rain now, which creates headaches for us because we have inclement weather policies that dictate what we can and can't do for them as far as training goes on the track. But the horsemen were very supportive at the entry box for Big Cap Day. It's 12 races, 113 horses on the card, just shy of 10 average field size per race. So, I mean, we're thrilled with the support. Obviously, to have, 11 horses in both the Big Cap and the San Felipe is tremendous for us. The San Felipe, Bob Baffert has obviously transferred 4 horses to Tim Yaktine. Tim has his own horse in there who looks promising as well. You mentioned the Mandela horse, who could be any kind. I was very impressed by Skinner for John Sheriffs when he broke his maiden a couple weeks back. This is probably a little bit atypical for John to bring a horse back this quickly. We kind of assumed that maybe the Santa Anita Derby would be on his radar more than the San Felipe. But I would take that as a good indication from John that he's very happy with where the horse is. So we're expecting a good competitive race, and obviously there are others. Genius Jimmy was very impressive when he broke his maiden on the grass for Michael McCarthy. If he can transfer that to the dirt, there's a lot to look forward to in that group, and even beyond that in the Santa Anita Derby. I mean, I'm hoping that we'll get several of these back there and maybe some new faces too. I mean, Ed Mosier bringing El Camino Real winner back quickly. First time dirt, I mean, it might be a big ask, but he wants to find out where the horse, whether or not the Derby Trail is a reality for him. So it's a very good group, a lot of promise. And, this time of the year, you start finding out what you have as far as the Derby. So it's exciting. Big Cap, obviously, a very significant race for us historically. Maybe lost a little bit of luster in recent years with the rise of, Saudi Cup and Dubai. And the way the handicap division kind of falls apart a little bit from 3 to 4 in a lot of ways. But it's a great field for this Saturday. We've got 11 horses. We got 3 Grade 1 winners. We got 9 of 11 that are graded winners overall, whether that's Grade 1, 2, or 3. I believe it's the 85th running of the Big Cap. We missed a couple of years during the early 40s during World War II, but consistently a good race, and we're very excited about it. So it's going to be a big day. Also got a Grade 1 Kilrow that precedes the Big Cap on the card, and the Buena Vista. So very well supported. Looking forward to what hopefully will be a great day of racing. The weather looks like it's going to cooperate after tomorrow. It'll be nice to see some California sunshine again and great racing.
Yeah, Jordan told me I'm not allowed to use the word weather at any point. Our talk, she warned me. She said that word's banned from the household. Yeah. I can't mention it during this live stream. Do not go there. But
yeah, I mean, we moved here from Baltimore to not have weather issues. So
it's quite all right. It's been crazy. I mean, we've had 24 inches of rain since opening day, and I mean, it's created a lot of headaches, but we're doing the best we can to deal with it and try to keep moving forward.
Yeah, you could control what you could control. You really can't stress about the uncontrollable because it's uncontrollable. So we have our one of our students, Eric DeCoster, joining us as well. And I know Eric has some questions for you.
I do. Jason, my first question is, you have, I believe, 3, maybe 2 or 4, I don't know. Either way, multiple horses coming from out east into the Big Cap. What goes into getting those horses out there, both from them entering in the first place and then getting them out? Is there anything that Santa Anita does for them?
So for horses like Proxy and Warrant and Scarlet Fusion, we spend a lot of time throughout the year recruiting, trying to get barns out here permanently, also advertising our stakes races. It's great to have support from owners like Godolphin, who, we kind of miss having strings out here, and, getting Proxy was huge for us. We have a little bit of a recruiting budget that we can help with the cost of shipping. And especially with Tech Sutton going down a couple of years ago, to be perfectly honest, FedEx is significantly more expensive for horses to travel, and it's less convenient because they only fly out of a few places. But it's great to have the support. We've been trying to build relationships with people back east to at least come out and support our stakes if the opportunity presents itself for that kind of horse, and we would love to have them have a string out here full time. We know that's, challenging geographically and economically for some guys, but yeah, I mean, it's Warrant and actually all three of them, Warrant, Proxy, and Scarlet Fusion, are on a plane right now. They should be landing sometime later this afternoon. And then we'll just put them away in the barn area, and they'll go back to training Thursday because track will be closed after we get all this rain tomorrow. And hopefully it'll be straight through to Saturday.
Awesome. And then kind of going more towards the card in general, obviously we've talked about the big races. What goes into making sure that the non-stakes races, the overnight races, fill up just as well? Is that, weeks planning? Is that when you're laying out the book weeks ahead? Yeah. We know these are our money races, and then just making sure that those all look good.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, you're almost working backwards from your big days as far as the type of races that you want on those cards as undercard races. Certainly, you want, what you would consider higher quality races whenever possible that you think will fill well. Like the allowance race down the hill. I mean, it's a unique race, the Santa Anita. We love to feature that when we have the opportunity to do so. Tried to stay away from claiming races on a day, but I mean, when I have a dirt race with 12 horses in it, it's a hard thing to pass from a betting proposition. So yeah, I mean, you're just kind of plotting. We keep a chart of every race that we write in the condition book and the way that it fills, and I mean, you're just using that data in combination with planning out your big days ahead of time, and kind of working backwards where you think those races will be scheduled. Like the allowance race might be every 4 weeks, so you probably see something similar around Santa Anita Derby time. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of you're looking ahead always, but also kind of working backwards, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. And then my final question for you on the card itself is where you place the races themselves. I'm sure that the races being on national TV probably plays a part in that. But sure. What goes into placing them in certain spots is, not having the stakes consecutively like we might see on, say, Kentucky Derby Day.
So because of the TV window and what we've done and partnered up with Gulfstream and some of our other tracks and doing what we called the first racing tour, we have a 2-hour TV window that runs from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. It was requested that we have the San Felipe be in the TV window. Otherwise, I probably would have put that later on the card. I mean, for us, typically the back half of our card is where we make most of our money, when the East Coast starts to wind down. Obviously Saturday's a little bit different animal with Gulfstream running 14 races, and all the promotion that we have between the two tracks. So where you're carding races is you're analyzing betting data basically, and trying to figure out where you can best place this race to be most productive for you. For us, because of the TV window and having the Buena Vista and the San Felipe early on the card, we decided to run an extra race because we normally only run 11 on Big Cap Day. We ran 12, and try to keep people interested with our mandatory pick 6 payout that we have. That starts after the TV window and right after the Fountain of Youth runs from Gulfstream. So we figured that we would keep the killer on the Big Cap to try to keep the interest with the mandatory throughout the rest of the day.
And then for you, Jordan, my question is, what are some of the bigger things that the TOC will do for either its members or just anything really related to big race days? I'm sure that it doesn't even have to be this upcoming weekend, but next month Santa Anita Derby and through the rest of the calendar.
Sure. As you may have noticed, TOC social media has kind of started picking up in the last few weeks. So we'll kind of try to highlight some of the owner experience on the big days. Ultimately, a lot of our members are already participating in the big days, whether it be with their horses or with, their favorite table in the front runner. So we kind of try to make special days out of other days too. So say on Sunday, we're doing an owner appreciation day, the day after Big Cap. But really, it's about being around, seeing people, having conversations, utilizing the time to get people together to have meetings, and that sort of stuff on the big established days, because the track doesn't need anything more to do as far as hosting. And we certainly don't want to minimize opportunities to sell tickets by, hosting free things. So, but really throughout the year, we're always trying to recognize owners. We had a big owner appreciation day up at Golden Gate on El Camino Real Day, which was a huge success. That was a big day. And we kind of questioned our model after that, but it was a lot of fun. Obviously our follow-up day here, but we're really trying to highlight the overall experience of ownership, the benefits of ownership, the way it can work, how much fun it can be, whether you're an individual owner in a partnership, whether you own Flightline or another horse that you just adore personally. That's the fun kind of owner relation stuff, but TOC is also extraordinarily involved in the business aspect of racing. So working closely with the track on all the approvals, obviously with Jason's department on purses and stakes races. Politically speaking, we've recently launched the California Horsepower Coalition, which is something that was a very strong trend in Maryland, as when we spent almost 10 years in Maryland before we moved back to California. And the Maryland industry as a whole is very cohesive as far as horses. The horse industry is strong, very, very strong. So coming out here, there was kind of a start of a movement for that. So that's been relaunched in November, the California Horsepower Coalition. So again, trying to keep owners of thoroughbreds involved in that, but also pull in equine enthusiasts of all types to just a natural bridge between the two industries, right? I mean, a lot of us, like I started just loving horses. So we're always involved in just more than, licensing or, sending information to newly licensed owners. It's such a cohesive organization, which keeps it interesting. Sometimes you got to just get in and read contracts. And sometimes you get to go design a fun marketing campaign with an agency. So dream job for me, get to do a lot of different things and stay connected with the horses. But I never liked 4 o'clock in the morning when I interned with a trainer back when I was a student. And that was a quick decision early on. So let Jason do that and then take the business route of things. So that's what we're up to here.
Can you talk about kind of the growth of partnerships and, from the little red feathers to more micro ownership and maybe how that's changed the ownership experience, if any? Can you talk about how you guys handle that?
Sure. So really, when I was interning back here in 2006, which is 5 years ago, we, a lot of those partnerships were really just kind of starting to come into their own, right? Maybe representation on a TOC board would be kind of like, well, I don't know, you're not an individual owner. Now it's just the way it's done, right? I mean, Little Red Feather is a great example. And you see new ones bubbling up, but you also have My Racehorse and obviously the micro shares. When I was on the Godolphin Flying Start training program down in Australia, that was a big deal. That the micro shares were a thing. Like college kids bought into horses, and so it's kind of fun to see that come to fruition here with My Racehorse. And I don't think there's nothing bad about it, right? I mean, you just get more people involved. The more exposure you have, the better opportunity to grow owners, and you need owners of all types. So it makes things kind of more complicated in some ways, but that's just, updating forms and that sort of thing. But the more the merrier. Obviously, we want more people involved, and it's fun. I wouldn't ever probably tell any of our peers that have little kids and work all the time that horse ownership is an opportunity, but I go get them a My Racehorse gift card for Christmas or something, and you start to get people that maybe grew up around Santa Anita engaged. So I just think it's great.
But does anybody call and say, I own 0.001% of Go Rocket Ride and I want to bring 20 friends to the racetrack on Saturday? Does that happen?
They don't call my office, but they call Amy Atkinson in Jason's office. So
and how do you handle that? I mean, it's not, at some point it could could just not be practical.
I think tracks have established relationships with a lot of these partnerships, right? So you kind of have an expectation.
It's often the managing partner that will come in and arrange seating or, any kind of lunch or anything else that their group is looking for, and I mean, we've experienced my racehorse, quite significantly at Santa Anita. I mean, and the support that they have when they have a horse running. And I mean, you will see in the winner circle, often it's overflowing with people when one of their horses wins. And I mean, it's a great experience to have that many people involved and touched by a single horse.
Yeah, and TOC, our membership is anybody that's a licensed California owner. Those micro shares, those owners aren't all licensed, so we don't see them all come through our books or our records individually, but you do see them around, and it works. They have their shirts on, their vests on, their hats on. It's great.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So we only have a few minutes left. The time flies by on these things. But Jason, you touched on shipping and how you can get more horses from around the country. Other than hiring smart up-and-coming students like Eric DeCoster to your racing office, that was a shameless plug for Eric to go around the country and recruit and hit the barn areas hard when you don't have the time to do that. Do you offer ship and win programs? Do you offer what can you do to entice trainers to say, hey, give sunny Southern California a shot?
So our ship and win program, and this is something that TOC has had a role in also, we've tried to kind of roll things over through Santa Anita and Del Mar for the Southern California circuit. So we will start in our ship and win. You get one start at Santa Anita. It's a guaranteed $5,000. You get an extra 35% of whatever your purse earnings are for finishing first through fifth. The way that we roll that over is like a horse that's new to Santa Anita that makes its first start in May and June stays eligible for the ship and win program at Del Mar. And this is the last year and a half or 2 years. We've just been stringing the meets together where you kind of get a shot at both places. For us, because of the length of our winter meet, we can't afford to do multiple starts. So it's just been a one start deal. Del Mar has a little bit more flexibility because of their meet only being 7 or 8 weeks long, that they've got some bonuses that are extended more than one start. But it's a good program for people that have come out here, and it seems like the experience has been pretty positive. It's a nice recruiting tool for us to have.
And do you find it helps? I mean, have you found that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. There's probably an argument that some of the horses would have come here anyway. But, certainly anything you can do to enhance an owner's experience and by, obviously lightening the bills wherever possible is a good thing to do. It makes it a little easier for a trainer to say, maybe we want to have a look at buying this horse out of England or Ireland or, wherever that can come and run here for the winter. And then, that $61,000 purse or $67,000 purse, if you're going to break your maiden, tack another 35% onto that, well, you probably got a pretty good chunk of your initial purchase price back in one start. So, and plus with the cost of travel, I mean, the 5,000, covers about half of it in a lot of cases, depending on what your flight arrangement is. So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefit to it. It needs a little bit of tweaking probably going forward, but it's served us and Del Mar in particular very well for the last few years.
Great. Well, we keep our eyes on Santa Anita. We bred a filly that finally broke her maiden real fire. So one of the
congratulations.
Thanks. So
nice
one of the projects the students do is look to where her next race will be. So she broke her maiden for $50,000. And we're looking for a race in the book, and we don't see one. So
you don't see one. Billy and Meyer starter 50, non-runners
Yeah.
at 2, short on the grass.
Next short on the ground. That's it. We're done. Yeah, I did my job. So trainer Steve Knapp will be
I'm
happy.
sure Steve Knapp will
Yeah.
let me know.
You're like the king of shameless plugs, Robert. I had no idea.
I'm just trying for our horses to run.
Free advertising.
Yeah, whatever we can
That's
do.
great.
Yeah.
Good
So
job.
yeah, we're actually gonna have a student field trip out there at the end of April. So
Good.
we'll see you in person. We're gonna bring 10 students. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We know it's a busy week out there, and you carving out some time for us is really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you
guys.
both.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.